to realize that there are bad guys, and there are worse guys, and nothing else.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first trailer for the Thunderbolts. Asterisk. We have so many Easter eggs to break down, and we're going to give you our theory on why this title has an asterisk at the very end of the video, and I promise you it's going to be really cool. And we're also going to explain the big screen introduction of one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, the Sentry, created by the great Paul Jenkins. But before we get rolling, I want to remind you guys that we are currently selling tickets for our ScreenCrush tour, where we're coming to 11 cities for interviews, exclusive content, fan Q&As, and I just want to meet all of you guys for the first time and nerd out together. You can find the link below or on our Discord, which also has a link below. So the song for this trailer is Where Is My Mind by the Pixies. Now, for us 90s kids, this is a special song because it featured prominently in the movie Fight Club. The song's lyrics are actually about scuba diving, but in the context of Fight Club, the chorus, Where Is My Mind, referred to the narrator and his other personality, Tyler Durden. He literally did not know where his mind was because it was split between these two different personalities. The Sentry is similar to Edward Norton's character in Fight Club. He also has a dual personality. Now, I don't want to give away too much because of potential spoilers for the movie, but I will explain his origin story a little bit later in the video. I will say now, though, that I love this character, and including him in the MCU is very, very exciting.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
So, in the comics, the Thunderbolts primarily consist of redeemed supervillains. They were created by Kurt Busiek, and they first appeared in the Incredible Hulk 449 following the events of Onslaught when the Avengers were declared dead. So it makes sense that in this film, we're seeing the Thunderbolts form while the Avengers are seemingly no more. Yeah, for some reason. I still don't understand it either. Now, despite sharing the name of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, the team is not actually associated with the character. In the comics, they were primarily led by Baron Zemo, who we all assumed and hoped would make an appearance in this movie. I mean, this is his corner of the MCU after all. Now, speaking of Thunderbolt Ross, I wouldn't be surprised if the MCU version of the team is connected to Thunderbolt Ross and perhaps even named after this newly elected president. We should also mention that Thunderbolt Ross has seemingly taken on a bit of a Norman Osborn type role in the MCU, such as him being a villain turned president. In the comics, the Thunderbolts were also once led by Norman Osborn, and this could all be connected to that asterisk in the title, but like I said, more on that in a bit. I will say that originally we thought the Thunderbolts was going to be Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad, but now it looks like they're going to be more of a dark, grounded team of superheroes, more in line with Nick Fury's Secret Avengers from the comics, the Black Ops team that he assembled during the aftermath of Civil War to handle the missions that the public-facing heroes like Captain America can never be seen going after. Oh my god, it smells terrible in here! We can't shop here! Boycott!
Person, we can't let him boycott us. He's our only customer.
Okay, everybody calm down. There, is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. Okay, everybody, boycott's off.
But you're the only person here.
Person, what is that? It smells incredible. Smells like sandalwood and musk.
Why thanks, Doug. That was Midnight Gold by English Laundry. It's a high-end fragrance, but I was able to get it for just $8 a month through Scentbird. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service, and if you are new to wearing cologne, this is the perfect way to start. Scentbird is great for guys like us because, frankly, I have no idea what makes for a good cologne, and I don't want to risk a bunch of money on some expensive bottle. Before Scentbird, I never wore cologne, but this subscription makes owning cologne affordable, and now it's become an important part of my daily routine. I shower, get spruced up, and then the finishing touch is a little bit of cologne. I mean, I've discovered that wearing a cologne is a great way to express my personality without even saying a word. Now, to educate me about the cologne, they send along descriptive cards that explain the ingredients. This month, my favorite was Guilty pour Homme by Gucci. It's got a sweet cedar scent with sophisticated woody nuances.
Yes, and I detect patchouli and lavender.
That's right, high five. Now these samples are actually 8 times bigger than a normal sample size you would get in a store. Plus the bottles are small and portable, perfect to take on vacation. You can choose a designer fragrance every month for just $17. You get a 30-day supply and you get to pick what you want to receive, so there are no surprises. This is a great way to learn about cologne and find out what you like without dropping a ton of money on an expensive bottle. Plus you can skip any month with no penalties. So if you want to give Scentbird a try, click this QR code and use our code 55ScreenCrush, or click the link in the description to get 55% off, available in the USA and Canada. The trailer begins with Yelena Belova knocking on the door for foster spy dad, Alexei, aka the Red Guardian.
Now do say what now?
You know what, Doug? You're right. I always assume that everyone who watches our videos has seen like every Marvel movie multiple times. So throughout the breakdown, I'm going to stop and give you guys just a little bit of background on each character as a refresher, and I promise it won't take long. So in the movie Black Widow, we learned that Natasha was a child spy who was assigned to 2 Russian operatives living in America in the 1990s. Her foster dad, Alexei, was also a super soldier known as the Red Guardian. Yelena Yelena Belova, who's basically the new Black Widow now, was her younger sister. Now afterwards, Yelena and Natasha would be trained as assassins in the Red Room, which for decades trained and brainwashed little girls to become the world's most elite assassins. Now in the movie Black Widow, which takes place between Civil War and Infinity War, Natasha, Yelena, and their foster parents worked to bring down the Red Room, which was like a flying fortress in the sky. This is where they discover that the Red Room's chief enforcer is another brainwashed assassin, Antonio Dreykov. She is the Taskmaster, who can replicate the moves of any person she fights. Now the movie ends with the Taskmaster freed from her mind control, and then leaving with Yelena and the others to free more assassins from brainwashing. Now Yelena was blipped by Thanos, so when she came back, her sister Natasha was dead and gone. So she started taking assassin jobs from Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who was the director of the CIA. Now Val is a central character in this movie, but we'll talk about her role later on. The last time we saw Yelena was in the show Hawkeye, when Val hired her to go after Clint Barton, thinking that he was responsible for her sister's death. It was actually a very sweet scene where she reached an emotional catharsis over her loss of Natasha.
She loved you and always wanted you safe.
So the last time we saw Alexei, it was the year 2017 in the MCU. He had just been released from a Russian gulag, and he was definitely not welcome in the United States because he stole secrets from S.H.I.E.L.D. But now we see him living a bachelor lifestyle in America. Now his apartment is filled with fun little details, like how he surrounds himself with American memorabilia and veteran iconography. Now this makes sense because he was a bit obsessed with Captain America.
My great adversary in this theater of geopolitical conflict. I always thought there was a great deal of mutual respect.
Notice there's this flag behind him with an eagle that reads strength and freedom. There's also this pine tree air freshener, still in the package, so you know this place reeks. There's also a past due bill in his fridge, this cup of plastic cutlery, this American flag glass, and my favorite detail, there's this poster of himself, the Red Guardian. Now he's holding a hammer, which is the symbol of the industrial workers on communist flags.
Well, why does he have a poster?
Well, in the movie Black Widow, we saw that he was kind of a celebrity in the 80s with his own line of toys in the Soviet Union. The tattoo on his right arm reads Natasha and Yelena in Cyrillic text with roses on it, showing how he cared for his foster daughters. And we also see his spy wife, Melinda, on a tattoo with the word for love in Russian underneath.
But wait, why is he allowed to live in America? I thought you said he was caught spying.
Yeah, but as we've seen in the MCU, usually when heroes do something wrong, it's forgiven after they do something right. Like how the Sokovia Accords just kind of went away.
Pretty sure this guy's a war criminal now, but whatever.
There was also an open border policy during the blip when nations were trying to find workers to run their economies. So obviously Alexei came in during that time. Now, the trailer kind of hops around in time and place, so it's a little difficult to construct a plot from the clips we see. Plus, guys, I don't really like to break down the whole plot from the trailers because it ruins the movie for you and for myself. But I do think that the fight where Yelena is in the hallway is the opening fight of the movie where she breaks into a medical lab, and afterwards she recruits her dad for help.
You feel fulfilled?
Yeah, so full, so filled.
And this could be even after she meets the other heroes. But what's important here is that he does not feel like his life has meaning and that she is getting a team together.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
Now the Marvel logo is yellow, matching the color of the Sentry's uniform, who, don't worry, I'm going to explain the Sentry in just a bit. So then we see Yelena on the mission that looks like a setup. Now notice how she's carrying two batons. Now this is a design that most Black Widows take after. It was how Natasha would wear her uniform post-Civil War. Now remember, she also wore her sister Yelena's vest after the movie Black Widow.
Well, if you're leaving, then I guess you should take this. I know how much you like it.
So it's very cool to see how the two of them share their battle gear, like how a lot of sisters actually share their clothes. Then we see Bucky at a Senate hearing. So the pin he's wearing is the seal of the United States Senate. He could be getting called in to testify, but I get the feeling from the trailer that he's like playing it legit now. The last time we saw him, he had kind of reached an emotional catharsis about his time as a brainwashed assassin, and you know, he helped Sam fix the boat. Now it looks like he's working with the government. And later we see him at a fundraiser, you know, kind of a dour look on his face. So maybe he's still trying to atone for his sins by following in Steve Rogers' footsteps. Remember, Steve worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as he came out of the ice, and maybe now Bucky is trying to undo some of the bad that he has done. But he's also wary of serving any government, you know, because of his time as a brainwashed assassin, which may explain the gloomy look on his face in this trailer. Then we cut to John Walker, who is super depressed. In the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was originally handpicked by the government to be the new Captain America, until some super soldier serum gave him an outlet to release his inner rage, and he murdered a man in broad daylight. Now afterwards, Sam and Bucky took the shield back, and Walker made his own shield, and then we saw Val recruiting him, giving him a new name.
A US agent.
Now, in the comics, John Walker had a similar story. He was an extremist who the government used to fill the role of Captain America when Steve Rogers walked away from the Shield. So Walker went a little crazy and Steve took the Shield back, and then Walker became the hardliner superhero USAgent. In the show, we also saw his wife Olivia, and here it looks like he's now become a father, but he is still obsessed with his past failure. The article's photo here shows Walker when he was first announced as the new Captain America. Now notice though, the article is written in like the New York Times font, and it is about his fall as a hero. And also notice it is written by Rory Bruin, who is a supervising movie art director for Thunderbolts and multiple movies that Thunderbolts took inspiration from, like Tenet, Red Notice, and First Man. And speaking of art direction, I like these 2 stars hanging from this mobile. 2 stars, just like how John Walker was the second Captain America. The article here even name-checks Steve Reading, while no one could doubt that the boots of Steve Rogers were big ones to fill by anyone's standards. So we see here that Walker is haunted by this failure, and he's searching for how he fits into the world. And like, I don't blame him. I also am a huge Captain America fan, and that is why we designed this I Can Do This All Day shirt at our merch store showing Cap Shield through the ages. We also have our Ross 24 shirt, the woo, I'm about to make a name for myself, and lots of fun Agatha parody merch like Get On Losers, We're Walking the Cursed Road. Shopping our merch store helps to support our channel, and the links are below. And then we get a few shots of that first mission that I mentioned earlier. Yelena watches a building explode, which at first made me think the team might be in Madripoor. You know, the anything goes country that we saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But later we see a similar exterior with a New York license plate and a sign for DeKalb Avenue. So I'm wondering if Yelena originally breaks into this place earlier in the movie and then returns and meets everyone else. She is wearing 2 different outfits, so I definitely think this is 2 different missions. So this hallway fight could be meant to mirror her sister's hallway fight in Iron Man 2. But to show that the Thunderbolts are darker and more extreme, the fight is darker and more extreme, happening in silhouettes and shadows, while Natasha's fight was in a white hallway. The fight ends with Yelena doing a double tap to the head to make sure her enemy is dead. And Natasha did something similar, but with her stingers in Iron Man 2. And then we see the mission where the Thunderbolts first meet. So I'm gonna throw a crazy theory out here. What if this fight takes place in the old Avengers mansion?
Say what?
Yes, so in Spider-Man Homecoming, we hear that Tony has sold Avengers Tower.
Tony sold Avengers Tower, relocating to a new facility upstate.
But we never found out who bought it.
Mysterious.
Then later in this trailer, we see Val standing in front of the same bar where Natasha flirted with Bruce Banner. And the view behind them definitely looks like Midtown Manhattan, where Avengers Tower is placed. So what if Val lured them all here to assemble her new team? Now I'll dive more into that theory in a bit, but it sets up something really cool. Notice how Yelena walks by what looks like IV bags, and all of this gear looks like it was just thrown into the room. Again, making me think that this is Avengers Tower and the people are just moving in. And these IV bags could be there for Robert Reynolds, who we see in a hospital gown.
Oh yeah, so what's going on with that guy?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain the Sentry because I think it'll help us to understand the scene and why they're in Avengers Tower. In the comics, the Sentry one is the all-time most powerful Marvel heroes. He was basically Marvel's Superman, and he was there for the early days of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, and everybody else. But for some reason, everyone forgot who he was for decades. Even the Sentry forgot who he was. The comic begins with him as an alcoholic named Bob Reynolds, who slowly starts to remember his life as a superhero. He later finds out that Doctor Strange and Reed Richards worked together to wipe the Sentry from existence, but they did this at Bob's request.
Intriguing.
Now the Sentry also takes his power from drinking a super serum, which is why he becomes an alcoholic in his normal, like, amnesiac human form. So to me, this looks like in the Thunderbolts, the government bought Avengers Tower and they're trying to create their own superhero, the Sentry, and this is why they're testing out different blonde hairstyles. Now notice the text here reads Watchtower, and the Watchtower was the Sentry's headquarters in the comics, which later also becomes the Avengers headquarters, inspiring Avengers Tower in the MCU. So it would make sense if the government conducted experiments to create their own brainwashed superhero, and then they wanted him to work out of the Watchtower, which was the old Avengers Tower. So Yelena looks at this crate, which also has a few interesting items. There's these schematics, but there's also this list of different hairstyles that I mentioned earlier. Like I said, these are all different hairstyles of the Sentry. This almost looks like a list of different options. Again, like the government is creating their own branding for a new hero. This could be why this says do not release, because they're waiting to finalize the branding of this hero before they release it to the public. Then Yelena encounters John Walker, and I think they were both definitely sent here by Val, since they each have taken jobs from her in the past. I also want to flag that Yelena's haircut mimics Natasha's hair in Infinity War, and it's also the same hair that she has at the very end of Black Widow. This could have been the last haircut that Yelena ever saw her sister wearing, which is why why she's emulating it here. Now, notice how John Walker immediately takes a shot at Yelena's head.
Unlike Thor.
You should have gone for the head.
And she uses this bulletproof case as a shield, so I think this could be a case that she was sent here to retrieve, which is how she knew it would be bulletproof. Then she's rescued by the Taskmaster. So this MCU version of the character was first introduced in the Black Widow movie, like I said earlier. So Taskmaster owes Yelena and Natasha her life, which is why she's helping her out here. Now in the comics, Taskmaster has served as a foe to Spider-Man, Captain America, and even Ant-Man. He's known for being really funny, almost like Deadpool, and I really hope that Antonia keeps that tradition going in the MCU. And then we see Ghost, or Ava Starr, who was introduced in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. As a child, she was exposed to quantum energy, which gave her the ability to phase, albeit uncontrollably. When Janet returns from the quantum realm, she is able to help Ava control her phasing. And at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott Lang was in the quantum realm to collect these quantum particles for Ghost that would have helped her to maintain her phasing. But then, Thanos' snap happened and Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years.
Tough luck, dude.
So this makes me think that Ava was never truly cured because, Scott was stuck in the quantum realm, but now at least her condition has stabilized. Now there are so many cool details in this fight. Yelena pulls this knife on John Walker. Later, he throws it at Ava, and she phases so it goes right through her head, crazy good tosh, and then she phases back to catch it. So we're seeing here that she does indeed have greater control over her abilities. Then she throws the knife at Taskmaster, it ricochets off her shield, and then Walker catches it and then tries to drive it back into Yelena's face. So this knife gets passed between all of them, giving everyone a chance to showcase their powers. But the significance of the knife is that it's traditionally the tool of an assassin, which is what all of these people are. Notice Yelena's Stinger gauntlets, which she did not wear in the movie Black Widow, so this is another tribute to her sister. And then Bob Reynolds crawls out of a box. Now he is played by Lewis Pullman, the son of this guy.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Sorry, I meant this guy.
At last, we meet for the first time for the last time.
He was originally going to be played by The Walking Dead's Steven Yeun, but then the strike last year caused a lot of reshuffling to this cast. And then we see that they were all set up. But I don't think this is a setup to kill them. I think this is a setup to recruit them. Val wanted to see if they could work together as a team. Afterwards, they go upstairs to her suite where she offers them a chance to assemble into a new team. But more on that in just a bit. And then we see shots of Yelena on that first mission holding these vials. Now I 100% think these vials are tied to the Sentry. This could be the serum that they use to give Bob his powers, which is why all of these super soldiers would have a vested interest in what happens to Bob. He is another brainwashed hero who's being used by the government. And then we see the manipulator, Val, at a fundraiser. So the banners behind her tell us that they are honoring the heroes of the Battle of New York and NYC. Notice that we see a banner of Hawkeye and Iron Man and various artifacts from the battle in the first Avengers movie. Like later we see a Chitauri weapon, like the one recovered in the excellent short film Item 47. And then in the foreground here we see Loki's scepter. So the scepter was essentially discarded after Ultron pulled the Mind Stone from it in Age of Ultron. Also, this tooth in the middle looks like the tooth of a Chitauri Leviathan. Now, this is all really fun, but look, this is not just Easter eggs. This movie seems concerned with the theme of legacy. Many of these heroes and anti-heroes are living in the shadow of former Avengers, and they're trying to live up to the example that they set. Or they owe these Avengers some kind of debt, like the Taskmaster or Ghost. Now, Val is assembling this team of misfits who all feel like they owe something to the dead, which is going to make them easier to manipulate. Now, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine is a character who first appeared in the Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comic books. Very long story short, she's a spy. She's a double agent. At points she worked for Hydra, and at points she was Nick Fury's lover. So the MCU has used her basically as a way to be like Nick Fury, appearing here and there to assemble different heroes together. The last time we saw her was in Wakanda Forever, when we learned she was head of the CIA and the ex-wife of Everett Ross. In that movie, we learned that the government wants to take offensive action against Wakanda. They want to destabilize the realm, which could be a key factor in the just announced third Black Panther film, also directed by Ryan Coogler. And then we get this awesome shot of Yelena running through the woods and then bursting through a wall and falling through a ceiling. Then she lands at a meal table, and this room looks a lot like the training room we saw in the Red Room flashbacks in Age of Ultron. So here I think we're seeing that Yelena is trapped in some kind of mindscape. Maybe she's entered Bob's mind, to help him deal with his schizophrenia, and then she got lost inside of her own. Or maybe she's been injected with some kind of mind-controlled drug. But I definitely think that her her running through her own mind, you know, like the lyric, "Where is my mind?" is going to end up being related to Bob's fractured psyche. Now, this shot of her diving through a wall that then, like the camera rotates and becomes a ceiling, seems like it's pulled from the incredible Michel Gondry film, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Actually, person, I think you're confusing your Charlie Kaufman films about the subconscious. The sequence you're describing appeared in Spike Jonze's Being John Malkovich.
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that. Now, speaking of Bob Reynolds, we see him standing in front of armed gunmen, and he's still in his hospital gown, and he's been shot full of holes. Visually, this is similar to Luke Cage in the Netflix series, who made ripped hoodies a fashion statement in Harlem. Now, Bob seems surprised here, like he had no idea that he had abilities. This would also tie into his amnesia that's in the comics. But in the MCU, he's a person who's been experimented on, and he's trying to remember who he is. Again, where is his mind? So, after a badass shot of Ghost using a knife to slide down the same elevator shaft we saw earlier, we get this moment of Bucky getting his assignment as he's just washed his vibranium arm in the dishwasher. Now, this is really funny, but it's also symbolic of how he's trying to wipe his hands clean of all the blood he spilled. But remember, guys, this is not the same vibranium arm he was gifted in Infinity War.
Where does it fight?
Nebula stole that arm and gave it to Rocket in the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Bucky's arm?
It looks like the Wakandans offered him a replacement arm that looks exactly the same. Now notice he's on the phone with someone, which is why I think that this is Val giving him a mission to go after or to assist her new team. Also, small detail here, notice how in the dishwasher, Bucky tucked a small glass underneath the arm when he cleaned it. No wasted space. And then we see a shot of Bucky in Avengers Tower.
What's the plan?
And this is either Val giving him the assignment or when he formally joins this new team. After the shot of Yelena stealing the serum, we see John Walker outside that building that we saw earlier. And notice how the Red Guardian is actually fighting behind him. Maybe for this mission, Yelena went inside and her dad stayed outside on lookout. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, in the shots of Walker earlier, notice how dirty and tainted his shield is. Now in the comics, his shield was black and red, but also this is showing us how Walker feels, like he has tainted the legacy of Captain America and his own legacy as a hero and a soldier. And then we see this awesome desert chase. Now notice the Thunderbolts are in a stolen car with diplomat plates, which is why Alexei thinks that this glass will be bulletproof.
Don't worry, she's bulletproof.
Now this entire sequence with the Humvee seems like a reversal of Iron Man's opening scene, where Tony, the hero, was attacked while he was in a Humvee. Again, we're seeing the past of the MCU being subverted and reversed to become something darker. Bucky is chasing them, either to catch them or to help them.
Is that Bucky?
And then he does a stoppie, the same move that Natasha does in Age of Ultron. And then we see Geraldine Vishwanathan looking at brain scans. So I think these are definitely scans of Bob Reynolds. Like I said, he has two personalities, a light side and a dark side, like the narrator in Fight Club. Now I do believe that the Bears' Ayo Adebebri was originally cast in this role, but she left the project because of shooting conflicts stemming from the strike. So this looks like a modified version of the Sentry logo, which in the MCU looks more like the logo to The Incredibles. And then we get the scene where the Thunderbolts arrive at Val's penthouse. Now I think it's interesting that the last time we saw the Avengers in this space, in Avengers Endgame, they were going down in an elevator, but the Thunderbolts are seen going up, showing us how the Avengers as we knew them are gone, but the Thunderbolts are rising to replace them. Now like I said earlier, I think that Val or the CIA have bought Avengers Tower. Here we can even see the boxes that they're moving in. And I think it's hilarious that they cleaned this entire room out, but Val wanted to keep the bar. You know, the one that Bruce and Natasha hid behind.
Sorry.
Don't turn green.
So Val bought this tower for her new team, and I think she wants the Sentry to lead this team, as he's being mind-controlled by her, of course. And this could also explain why Yelena was running through a mindscape earlier, because she was trying to escape her own mind to rescue Bob. Now the end sequence is this Humvee attack, which is beat for beat like Bucky's first appearance in The Winter Soldier when he attacks Nick Fury's car. So like I said earlier, I have a theory here. I think the MCU is finally adapting the Dark Avengers. This storyline happened in the aftermath of Civil War, when Norman Osborn ran S.H.I.E.L.D. and formed his own team of villains, but then he called them heroes. And that team, by the way, included the Sentry. And like I said earlier, this is also similar to how the Thunderbolts started off in the comics. So for years, we have wondered why nobody has reassembled the Avengers. But now we know, because the government was always waiting to get a team of Avengers together that they can manipulate and control. All of these heroes are some kind of shade of a past Avenger. Super soldiers, assassins, and the Sentry is a strong hero with long blonde hair and a split personality, kind of like a combination of Thor and Hulk. Hulk. And I think that is why this title has an asterisk. At some point, maybe at the end of the movie, that is going to be replaced with Dark Avengers. And I can't wait. Guys, we finally have a new MCU team-up movie. The big thrill of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is getting to see all of these different characters from different movies and TV shows meet for the first time, and it's finally happening.
About damn time.
And just a reminder, everyone, to give Scentbird a try, click this QR code and use our code 55ScreenCrush and click the link in the description to get 55% off. Available in the USA and Canada. You will not regret it. I love this cologne. Well, guys, that's all the Easter eggs that we found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. Big shout out to the entire ScreenCrush team. We wrote and worked on this video together, and I could not do this without them. They are the best. And if you have any other thoughts, let me know on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.